Good evening, everyone. If you will, open your Bibles up to Matthew chapter 25. Matthew chapter 25, that's where the new material begins. But we really need to go back to Matthew chapter 24 to have the context clearly in mind, because Matthew 25 is an answer to a question that was asked at the beginning of Matthew chapter 24. So in Matthew 24, they're exiting the temple complex, and here's the grand structure of the temple complex, and Jesus' disciples say, look at these stones. And Jesus makes the shocking statement, what? Not one will be left upon another. So they cross the Kidron Valley, get over to the Mount of Olives. While they're there on the Mount of Olives, his disciples ask him in verse 3, tell us when these things will be. You just said that not one stone's going to be left upon another. Tell us when these things are going to be. And so Matthew chapter 24, at least through verse 35, Jesus is answering the question when these things will be. And he tells them, there will be signs. You will see these signs and you will know that it's near. There'll be some signs that you'll see and you'll know it's not yet, but then there'll be other signs that you'll see. You know it's about to happen, therefore get out of town right away. And he uses even the illustration of the fig tree. When the fig tree begins to bud, you know that summer is near. So when you see these things, you will know that these things are about to happen. So he answers that question. But they had another question as well. If you go back to verse 3 of chapter 24, you see, and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? I believe that's a different question, or at least it deserves a different answer than the first. They may have been putting these things together, but I believe Jesus separates them, because when you get to verse 36, notice what Jesus says, but of that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, but my Father only. It seems to me that there's a shift here in what's under consideration, because up to this point, he's been saying, you'll see this and you'll know, you can tell, it's about to happen. Then he starts talking about no one knows. No one knows. So I think that he begins to answer that second question that they have, which is, what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? And so you won't know, and it's just like the days of Noah. He mentions that. It's just like the days of Noah. Did those people wake up that morning and think, hey, I think it's going to rain today and we're all going to die? No. It caught them completely off guard. They were not prepared for that. They were going about eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, and then the flood came and took them. So verse 42, he says, watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. That's the first time he says that. Now look at verse 43. Here's the first of 5 parables. And we looked at this parable last time. Know this, the master of the house, if he had known what hour the thief would come, what would he do? He'd stay awake. I remember one time getting a little hint that somebody may come roll my yard. I go to bed about 8:30, Lord willing. I did not go to bed at 8:30 that night. I stayed up way past my bedtime waiting for them to come roll. And they did. And I caught them. And I was prepared for that. And so if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Notice what he says a second time now. Therefore, you also be ready, for you do not be ready, for the Son of Man is coming when? We don't know. So we have to be ready all the time. All right, that's the second time he said that. That's the first of the 5 parables that he's going to use. And then the second of the parables, he says, they're the faithful and wise servant whom his master made ruler over his house to take care of things. What does he need to be doing? He needs to be doing that, because when might his master show up, and who knows? And so if he's doing what he's supposed to be doing all the time, whenever his master shows up, he'll find him doing that, and there's a reward for that. What will he do in verse 47? Yeah, he'll make him ruler over all of his goods. He'll be rewarded in that. But what if he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing when the master shows up? Yeah. He'll be cut in two and appointed with the portions with the hypocrites, and they'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. All right, so I want you to notice in these parables that he's giving here, there's going to be this emphasis on they need to be doing and what they're supposed to be doing, because they don't know when they'll have to give an account of that. When they do have to give an account of that, if they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, there will be a reward. If they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, there will be punishment. Those elements are in all of these parables, and Jesus reiterates this several times because it must be really important for us to understand that. We must really need to know that. And I would guess even in tonight's lesson, when you start to think about this, your mind will drift back to, am I really living that way? Am I really prepared? Am I really thinking, the Lord could show up today and I need to make sure that I'm busy doing what I need to be doing? I think the reason that the Lord reiterates this so many times is because it's so easy for us to become like the people in the days of Noah. We're planning what we're going to do next month. We've got things going on, and we just assume that it's just going to continue, and we lull ourselves into complacency in many cases where we're not being as diligent as we need to be. All right, any thoughts before we get into chapter 25? You got anything in the way of introduction you like? Anybody else? Okay, so let's start with this third parable now, and the parable of the 10 virgins. Would you like to read that?
Then the kingdom of heaven shall be likened to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. Now 5 of them were wise and 5 were foolish. Those who were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them, but the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. But while the bridegroom was delayed, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight a cry was heard, Behold, the bridegroom is coming, go out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise answered, saying, No, lest there should be not enough for us and you, but go rather to those who sell and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding, and the door was shut. Afterward, the other virgins came also, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, Assuredly I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man is coming.
Very good. Okay, so what's the kingdom of heaven like? 10 virgins. All right, 10 virgins. Now, this is something that we, at least I don't naturally process this because we don't see this in our culture today. But from what I understand, in Jewish wedding ceremonies, what you would have is you would have the bridegroom coming to the wedding feast, and there would be a welcoming party that would kind of go out and bring him in. And this was part of the celebration that was taking place here. And so these 10 young ladies were chosen to be part of this welcoming party, and they're waiting. Now, when's the bridegroom going to come? Not exactly sure. We just know he's going to come. Okay, so he's not being real good about texting his ETA on things here. And so they're kind of having to guess. They're just having to be prepared. And so there's a distinction made in these 10 virgins. What's the distinction made? Wise and unwise. What was it about the wise that made them wise? They were Girl Scouts. They were prepared. They got to thinking about this. We don't know when this is going to happen. It may happen right away. It may not happen right away. So we better prepare for whenever it happens that we'll be ready. So they brought extra oil to be prepared. So they're waiting. The bridegroom hasn't come yet. What do? They go to sleep. And that was okay. They were waiting. But then all of a sudden, the word comes, hey, he's about here. Get ready. And so now they need to get their lamps trimmed up, burning brightly, and everybody wakes up and everybody realizes, we're about out of oil. No problem for the Girl Scouts. What do? We brought some extra. We'll put it in there. The 5 others, oh no, we're in trouble. Please, can I have some of your oil? What's the answer? Why, you are so selfish. Why was that an appropriate answer? That's right. This is something that I can't share because There's not enough. I can't give you. What do you think's under consideration here? If we're trying to lay out a parable and say, okay, this represents this represents this, what does the oil represent? Preparedness. Okay, yeah, and faithfulness. Yes. What? A commitment. All right. Can I give that to you? Can I give you my faithfulness? You can't. You can't. And we would all like to, wouldn't we? Because there's all people that we love. All of us have people that we love that are not faithful, that we would love to give our faithfulness to. But we can't. That's one thing we can't. Everybody has to prepare that themselves. And so here's the situation. There's not enough. Now they make a recommendation here. What is that? Yeah. Go buy some. Now, what time of day? What's the time? It's midnight. So it's not going to be real easy to go find people that have oil that's willing to sell to you, but they scurry off to do so. But what? The bridegroom comes, and the 5 that are wise, that have their lamps trimmed and burning bright, attend with the bridegroom and go into the wedding feast, and the door is closed. Here come the foolish virgins, pounding on the door. Let us in, let us in. We've got oil now, we've got oil, we're ready now. What's the answer? I don't know you. I don't know you. You're not part of this. You weren't ready. I don't know who you are. And they miss out. They miss out. And so in the days of Noah, the Bible doesn't give this description, but man, somebody described this way to me one time, and I remember it, and it's just etched in my mind. And that is, people who had heard Noah preach at some time probably mocked him and made fun of him. Now when the water is knee deep and things are getting washed away, they're scrambling to get to the ark. And here they are pounding on the side of that rain-soaked ark, scratching on the door, and it's too late. And it's too late. And so Jesus uses that imagery of in the days of Noah. They were going about their business. They weren't preparing themselves until the flood came and took them all away. And here is the closed door, pounding on the door, but it's too late. It's too late. So there is a time where it's too late. What would you like to say about this?
Well, in chapter 24, verse 42, he said, "Watch therefore, you do not know what hour your Lord is coming." He's saying the same thing, again. So it must be really important. Do you think this? I mean, in the kingdom of God, in the church of God, we have foolish Christians and wise Christians, and I think he's referring to that.
I do too. Yes.
And so we need to remember that we want to be like the wise versions. I know Bob in his book said that we foolish is the word that we get our word translated. The word translated foolish is the word from which we get our word moron. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was that jumped out at me there, but it's utterly foolish, he said, to not be prepared and to.
That type of preparation, those things that we think, yeah, I really need to improve. I need to start doing this. I need to do better at this, and I will someday. I think those are the type things that would really be under consideration here. I think that's the foolish mindset, is that I'll get around to that. I've mentioned this to y'all before, but I'm impressed with what James says when he talks about he that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. And in the context there, it is that mentality of, well, we're going to be able to do this and this and this. You don't know what you're going to be able to do. You don't know when your time is going to be up. You don't know when you're going to be called to be accountable for your actions. And therefore, if you're not doing what you know you need to be doing now, it's sin. It's sin. And I think that's the foolish virgins in this. is that they're not prepared for the Lord to come at any time.
It's reminds me of 2 Timothy 3:5. Some people just have a form of godliness and deny its power. And I think that's the way a lot of members of the church are. They just have a form of godliness.
Any other thoughts on this parable? Nothing? All right. Verse 14. For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country who called his servants and delivered his goods to them. So here's another parable about the kingdom of heaven. And this one is a master who is going off somewhere, and he puts 3 men in charge of what, in this parable, what does he put them in charge of? It says his goods, but what does it mention specifically? Yeah, for his money, talents in this. And so there's different amounts given him. You did such a good job reading last time. Did you mind reading again?
For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on a journey. Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5 talents. And likewise he who had received 2 gained 2 more also. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered me 5 talents. Look, I have gained 5 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of our Lord, your Lord. Who also had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Then he who had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid and went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, there you have what is yours. But his Lord answered and said to him, You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own with interest. Therefore, take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Thank you. Good job. So let me ask you, on the most fundamental level, what is this parable representing? In other words, if this equals this, what is this? Who are the servants here? God's people, right? Christian. Who's the master?
Christ.
Yeah, or the Lord God or something. All right. What is the expectation of the servants in this parable? To make a profit for their master. What is the expectation for you? If you are the servants in here, what is the expectation for you that the Lord has for you? To what? To be fruitful. To be fruitful. To be busy in his kingdom, accomplishing his purpose, right? How many of you recognize that and understand that is your role? That is what the Lord expects of you. Okay. Did these servants understand their Lord's expectation? All 3 of them seem to have understood their Lord's expectation. These things were entrusted to them to go and to use for the Lord's profit, to be fruitful in his work. They understood that. That is so important because I think there's a tendency to forget what the expectation is of us. You know, when the Lord returns, he's looking for something. He's expecting us to be doing something right now. And when he returns, if we're not found doing that, there's a problem. There's a problem. All right, so let's break this down a little bit. So he goes and he offers these talents, this amount of money. By the way, a talent was quite a bit of money, and a large sums of money given to each one. To one there was given 5 talents, and to one 2, and to one 1, each according to his ability. Now, I don't know all that I probably need to about what to make of that, but I do think that the Lord probably has different expectations for us depending on our situation, what abilities and gifts he's given to us, what opportunities and situations we have available to us. I think that to whom much is given, much will be expected. And so I think that's probably what's under consideration in this, with each according to his own ability. And so the one that's received 5 talents, what does he go and do? He makes 5 more. How does he do it? It tells us. He goes out and he trades, and he takes what the Lord's given him. And so he's buying and reselling, and he's doing this not for his own profit, but for the profit of the master. And how much does he end up making in this? 5 more talents. He doubles the amount. If you took your IRA and turned it over to a financial advisor and they doubled it in a short period of time, you would be absolutely thrilled. You'd be very happy with that. All right. So he's doubled it. All right. The one who had gained 2 talents, what does he go and do? He doubles it as well. Now, he didn't get 5 more talents. He got 2 more talents. And but he used what he had, and he did that. So this third individual, he has 1 talent. What does he go and do? He puts it in the ground. He goes and buries it and puts it in the ground. How much is it going to make there in the ground? It's not going to. Where's our science teachers at here? It's not going to go through. What is that? Meiosis. What does a cell do when it divides? Mitosis, that's the word I'm looking for. It's not going to go through mitosis and double and turn into 2 talents there. And it's not even going to earn any interest there. But it's safe, right? It's safe there. It's not losing anything. But what did his master give it to him to do? To make something. To make something. I wonder if we almost view our service to God that way as well. Well, as long as I don't do anything wrong, as long as I'm not out hurting people, as long as I'm not, if I just live kind of a quiet, peaceable life and don't cause any trouble, then that's all that the Lord expects. When I think the Lord expects us to be making a difference. He expects us to be being fruitful in that. Now, I'm not saying that living a quiet and peaceable life is not part of being fruitful, but I'm saying if our mentality is well, I just, don't lose what I've got. I don't think that's the idea. What was the 2 passages that Larson started off the singing class with? What do they both have to do? Excel still more, abound. And I think in all spiritual things, we need to be growing in that. All right. So he buries it. And I'm going to stop right there and allow comments. Dwight, do you have anything you'd like to add up to that point? No. Anybody else?
So I know we talk about this sometimes, but it's in service to God, being afraid is not going to be enough. Fear does something, and I think there's a good fear of the Lord. But saying, I don't want to go to hell, and I don't want to be eternally punished, that would not be enough. Usually what that results in is a type of service where you're not being active, you're not pursuing righteousness. I think the way that these other 2 stewards would be described. Where they look at it and say, I want to accomplish something for my master.
Yes. Yes. And do you see, I look at this and I just think about my mentality in serving the Lord. Do you see the difference in the mentality of these people? It's like, all right, I've got a job to do. I can accomplish something here. I can produce something. And then there's another one. It's like, oh no, responsibility's been placed upon me. I don't want this. And what type of person would you want working for you? What type of person do you think the Lord wants working for him? One who, when something's entrusted to him, is like, all right, I'm going to do my very best at this. I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to go after it. And so I do think what Austin was saying there is important, because my mentality, I'm a pretty conservative, cautious guy. And risk is not my thing. And I think sometimes that if we allow that mentality, what it can do is it can push us into being unprofitable in somebody's service and in God's service. Okay, so coming back to our text now. In verse 19, after a long time, the Lord of those servants came to settle accounts with them. That's what's going to happen with all of us. I think the question that the disciples were asking is, when are you going to return? When are you going to settle accounts? And so Jesus in this parable is incorporating that question in mind. So the Lord comes to settle the accounts. This parable is not emphasizing when it's going to happen. He's kind of already dealt with 3 parables that deal with when it's going to happen. And the answer is, we don't know. It could happen at any time. This parable is going to deal with what's expected when it happens. So the master comes to settle his accounts. He who had received the 5 talents, he comes, and what is he able to do? He presents 5 more talents. And that's what he says. He said, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. Look, I've gained 5 more talents besides these. And what does the Lord say to him? That's what my expectation was, and you did well. If this represents the Lord, is it possible to please the Lord? There are too many people that think, it's just impossible to please the Lord. There's no way we can ever please the Lord. Our actions will never please the Lord. And I want to say, Old and New Testament, what we see is we see people that God said they were righteous. They were good people. They were doing what the Lord said to do. You remember what God said of Job? Consider my servant Job, one who fears God and shuns evil, a blameless and upright man. And so the Lord is not, his expectations are not unreasonable. And he's looking, he's not against us, he's for us. And so here's someone that had excitement in doing the Lord's work, accomplished that, and the Lord says, well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things, now what? I will set you over much. Austin and I have been talking a lot about this lately, this parable in particular. I really do believe that our time here on earth is a test over little that's been entrusted to us to see if we are worthy of being entrusted much. And so that's helped us. Austin and I were talking about that, how that helps our mentality here. That, okay, this is an opportunity for me to prove to the Lord my faithfulness to Him and my trustworthiness to Him, in the hope and the expectation that He will be pleased with me and entrust even more to me. That's the reward. That's the reward. I like working for a reward. The carrot and stick method. What's the carrot? Reward. What's the stick? Punishment. I do want to fear the Lord, but I operate at a much higher level of efficiency when I'm working for a reward rather than just trying to avoid punishment. And that's exactly what the Lord offers us is, here's the opportunity. I want to reward you. Here, I'm entrusting you with these opportunities and these abilities. Go. All right. 2-talent man. What does he come back and say? I gained 2 more. So here is 4. What does the master say to him? Well done, good and faithful servant. Any less, well, okay, that was all right. Fair done, good and faithful servant. No, well done. You did exactly what I was hoping you would do. You didn't have as much opportunity. You didn't have as much talents there, but you did exactly what I wanted you to do. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. What? I'll make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Now here comes the third individual. Now what is he going to be able to say to the Lord? Here, I can give back to you what you gave me. Unfortunately, I can't give you any more than that. And notice what he says in verse 24. I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. I knew you had high expectations of me. And I was afraid. And so I went and hid it in the ground. And look, there you have what is yours. Wait a minute. I know you had high expectations. I know you expected me to make a profit for this. I know you expected me to return to you more than what you had given me. And so what did I do? Nothing with it. Nothing. So when the master responds, he responds with pretty strong words, but you can kind of understand why. The Lord said to him, you wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. You knew the expectation. And so what a foolish and lazy thing to do nothing with it when you know the expectation. Therefore, you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming, I would have received back my own with interest. Therefore, take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. Now, listen to this lesson. For everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have an abundance, but from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. How many of you have been given something by the Lord to use for his profit? Every one of us have. What's the expectation of that? To use it for his profit. If we do use it for his profit, what's he going to say to us? Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a little, I'll make you ruler over much. If we have not used it for his profit, what will he say to us? You wicked and lazy servant. And then what's he going to do? He'll take it away and give it to who? To the one who's proven themselves a good and faithful servant. When the Lord comes, whenever that is, tonight or 2,000 years from now, whenever that is, that's what all of us are going to give an account of. And that's what we're going to hear. Either well done or you wicked and lazy servant. So that's where we're at with that. And then what happens to him? Verse 30. Cast that unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I don't want someone like that working for me. Send him away. What do you think that means in this parable? Or what does that mean to us? What does that represent to us? That's right. Hell. That's hell. Out of the presence of God. I can't use you. You can't serve me. You had your opportunity, and you proved to me that you are not willing to work for me. So I can't use you. Depart. Be gone. All right, thoughts? You got anything?
Jesus constantly warned that we must be, productive people, and that's like saying bear fruit. And I had a couple of passages here in John 15. First 8 verses is the parable. It's about the vine and the branches. But in verse 2, it said, "Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, that it may bear fruit, more fruit." And down in verse 8, he says, "By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, so you will be my disciples." And over in Luke 13, the parable of the barren fig tree, in verses 6 through 9 there, he said a certain, in verse 9, at the end of the parable, he says, "And if it bears fruit, well, but if not after that, you can cut it down." He was pruning the fruit, the vineyard and the fig tree, and but he What I'm saying is Jesus expects us to be productive people and bear much fruit.
Very good.
James 2, faith without works is dead.
Yeah, very good. And remember, this is a parable about the kingdom and about servants in the kingdom. And so it's applicable to us, for sure. Other thoughts?
Is there a possibility of using it and losing it?
Explain.
Well, was he expected to make 5? Or was he expected to make 2? What if he
What if he made less?
made less?
Yeah.
Hard money at all.
Right. Well, it is interesting that, so the one who did nothing, made nothing at all with it, the master, when he instructs him, what did he say he at least could have done with it? Yeah. You're probably not going to make double on interest, but you could have made something with it. And so I don't know the answer to that.
Well,
But-
like you said about IRAs, you can lose it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, is there a possibility? I don't know if you hit on something I may have said it. I was trying to exactly what these talents are to us.
Yeah.
Money to them.
Right. And I think it's opportunity. I think that's what it is. I think it's opportunity. And it's what these people are trying to do with their opportunity. I think about, there are things that we try, opportunities we try to take advantage of that don't turn out the way, doesn't turn out very fruitful. Here we're trying to evangelize, we're trying to teach our neighbor, and they're not interested. Did we use the opportunity? Would the Lord say, "Well done, good and faithful servant," when we show up and we say, "Well, I didn't convert anybody. I tried, but I never converted anybody." Would the Lord be pleased with that? Yes. Great.
Funny that you said that. I was looking at that verse in Galatians 6, and it says, "Let us not grow weary while well doing, but for in due season you shall reap if you do not lose heart. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all, especially to those who are of the household of faith."
Yes.
Right what I was looking at, right when you said that.
Yeah. Very good.
That's the things that we need to be looking for, is the opportunity.
Yeah. And when the master commended them, did he commend them for doubling the money? What did he commend them for? What was the terms that he used? Faithful, good and faithful, or wicked and lazy. And so it wasn't so much what they produced there. I don't want to take that away because I do think that's part of the parable, but it was the spirit in which they were doing that. That was what was describing them, at least, in that. So maybe that's helpful to us in that as well.
I thought of the riches being God's word and us being the messengers. And, we're the only thing he has down here to spread his message. So that's how I thought.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly part of our work, isn't it? Very good.
Might not even know that we converted someone.
That's true. It's very true. We don't know what the fruit of our labor is in every case.
I think each person's own personal ability plays a role in that, opportunity and ability.
I think so.
Because, we're not all built the same thing,
No.
obviously.
Right.
We all have strengths, we all have weaknesses.
Can you imagine me trying to teach a class on song leading or singing class? Yeah. No. So yes, I think that's right. I think our ability does, and God didn't intend when God set up the body of Christ. He says, in the body, not everybody's an eye, not everybody's a nose, not everybody's and so we have different functions in that.
The man that received 2 talents received as much praise as the man with 5 talents.
That's right. Okay.
Somebody might say that wouldn't
Yeah, well, you're probably right. Somebody would say that.
Well, there was one that parable where they started working at daylight.
That's right.
And
Yes,
they made the same.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Which is probably a good lesson for us in that that the Lord gets to decide what's right and fair in that. Okay, let's look at this next parable here in verse 31. We only got 5 minutes. Well, we're going to use some of it. Dwight, would you? I'm going to get you to read, but I'm going to break it up this time. So, verse 40. Will you read 31 through 40?
When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the holy angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And he will set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right hand, "Come, you blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you?" And the king will answer and say to them, "Assuredly I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these my brethren, you did it to me."
Very good. Thank you. All right. So when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all of his holy angels with him, this is going back to that question. When is the sign of your coming and the end of the age? Okay. So he's answered that question. When is the sign of his coming? There is no sign of his coming. It could be at any time. All right. Now, what are the expectations when he comes? Be ready. Be ready. Be active doing what he expects you to be doing. I think in this parable now, he's going to give some practical things about what those expectations are. Here's what I expect you to be doing. So that you're not unclear about it, I want you to know what's expected of you on this. So he's going to give some examples of this. But he starts off with this parable of a shepherd dividing the sheep from the goats. This would be something that, do you know why a shepherd would divide sheep from goats? No, because most of us don't have sheep and goats. But in ancient Israel, everybody would have probably understood this from the standpoint that this is a very common experience. You would run your sheep and your goats together when you would go out in the field to graze, but when you would bring them into the fold, into the corral at night, you know what happens if you put a bunch of sheep and goats together in a confined area? The goats beat the snot out of the sheep. And the sheep are all forced and crowded into one little area so the goats can have room. Goats are mean. That's just the way, that's why they're on the left hand in this. So what a shepherd would do, a fold would be set up where you would have a middle wall of partition and you would put the goats on one side and they could all be over there and be mean together. And then you put the sheep on the other side so they wouldn't be pushed up into a corner and smothered to death. And so a shepherd would do that. So Jesus just uses that illustration to say, on the day of judgment, it's going to be much like that. There'll be a dividing in that. And I think that so what's going to happen when the Lord comes? Well, there's going to be a judgment where we're going to give an account for what we do, and some will be on one side and some will be on another, and it will depend upon the actions that they took. And so the king will say to those on his right hand, what? What's the reward here? We're talking about each one of these parables has a reward. What's the reward? Come, inherit the kingdom prepared for who? For who? For you. This kingdom has been prepared for you. When did God prepare it? Before the foundation of the world. So before God ever created Adam and Eve, he already had prepared a kingdom that he anticipated that people who would be faithful and loyal and true to him, when he returned on the day of judgment, they would be invited to come and dwell with him forever, perpetually. That's what the Lord had planned. Now, there's another place prepared too, and we'll get to that probably not tonight. Now, the master says, when I was hungry, you gave me food. And he goes through a list of things. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. When I was a stranger, you took me in. Naked, you clothed me. Sick, you visited me. In prison, you came to me. And what do the righteous say here? We don't remember doing that to you. You've been gone. We've been waiting for you to come. We haven't had opportunity to do that to you. When have we done that? And what does the master say? What does the Lord say? When you did it to one of these. Creighton read for us a passage that as we have opportunity to do good, especially to who? To the brethren, yes, to the brethren. And so when we are doing this, these things that the Lord expects us to do, we are doing it unto the Lord. And so that's what we're to be busy doing. These are some of the things that we are to be busy doing here. Anything you'd like to say? We're about out of time, but I want to give you the last word. Anybody else? All right, I'm going to ask you to hold that thought because we'll have to come back to it to finish this parable next time, but we got into it anyway. We didn't waste any time. Thank you for your good attention and good comments. Thanks for watching. If you found this video to be beneficial, please follow us on Facebook or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to share it with others that you feel like may benefit from it. If you need to contact us, please contact